Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV and your match reaction show, the fan interactive after Liverpool were beaten by Chelsea 3-1 down at Stamford Bridge. What do we make of it all? Listen, I'll say this right away. I don't think it's time. I can't believe we even have to say it. I don't think it's the time for head loss. Let's put it like that. We are sitting here as Premier League champions, crowned, signed, sealed, delivered, done, dusted, all over. We spent large parts of the pre-match show talking about, the rotation, the fact we made 6 changes. There's a lot of players, fighting for their futures. We can have discussions around how they might have fared. That's absolutely sound. But in terms of the overall collective performance, in terms of the result, it would have been nice to have won the game. It would have been nice to have won all 4 remaining games. Ultimately, does it really matter? Like, are we actually really going to lose our heads over that? I'm personally not, but yeah, you do you. Let's do it. 100, do you know what? We had the Gorillas 100 men chat before the game, and I was very much in the camp of Gorilla beats all men, hands down. Having seen that with so end the performance, yeah, I'm inclined to have another chat with you because he was the one. Well, let's be honest. Let's get the man the match stuff out of the way. He was brilliant, I thought. And the only one at times really carrying the fight, because if we are going to dissect the performance, it was poor. It was nowhere near what we've become accustomed to. It was, the midfield in particular was outclassed at times. It looked like a midfield that hadn't played together a lot. Overrun at times as well, outworked at other times as well. But I think Endo was the absolute standout whilst he was on the pitch. Tried his heart out, put his body on the line, showed some class, some intricacy as well in his passing. Thought he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The rest of them, less. So I felt sorry for Jarell Quansah though, man. Fuck me. Martin Lawrence kicks it off. Not happy with the performance. Thought the manager made too many changes, and that made it hard for the players coming in to succeed. At the end of the day, we're still league champions. Absolutely their final point. It's interesting that we've seen a few examples now of him making changes, and it's hard to know what the problem is. Is it the sheer number of changes he makes, or is it the fact that players are coming in aren't good enough, or alternatively, is the fact they played so little football, they're so undercooked when they do get opportunities? Because PSV was one, we got beaten that game against, a pretty average Eredivisie side. I think it's fair to say Eredivisie teams in general aren't world beaters. Plymouth, bottom of the Championship, relegated from the Championship yesterday. Plymouth got beat by them, and we were pretty poor in that game as well. Made loads of changes for that. And then today, I thought that performance today was probably better, certainly than the Plymouth one. But again, it's a game whereby we brought players in from the cold a little bit, and they haven't delivered. Is it down to just lack of opportunities, lack of minutes in legs, or is it a quality issue? That's where I think Arne Slot, Richard Hughes, etc. will have to make a decision on one or two of the players. Are they good enough, or is that where we need to go into the market and find better options? A little bit of both, maybe. Little bit of both. Right, dive into the chat. Brady Lloyd says Quansah's stock drops lower and lower. Should have cashed in last summer. I don't think that was we spoke about Simicast and that maybe being a shop window opportunity forecast of Simicast. I don't think we are doing that with Jarell Quansah personally. Liverpool have made it abundantly clear that we're desperate to keep hold of Jarell Quansah. We give him a new contract. We've fended off interest in Newcastle last summer. We've dismissed interest in Newcastle already ahead of this summer. People may or may not think that he has got a future at the football club. Liverpool clearly do right now. What I would say is, I think last season looked to be, it was a breakthrough season for him, definitely. He seemed to have regressed since that. I'm not quite sure what the reason is, but he can't be the third choice centre-back, let's put it like that, for next season for me. I think he has to be 4th / 5th choice option. I really like him, I do, and people may not like that, but whatever. I do think there's a player there, and I think there's a future there for him. But like I say, I think in terms of next campaign, we're going to have 1 or 2 above him in the pecking order. Probably Virgil and Konate, 1, 2, Quansah, maybe Quansah the 4th. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, there has to be a couple of new signings in amongst it. Quansah cost us in the FA Cup against United last season. He's super. Yeah, I must admit, he does tend to find himself in situations that do result in problems. A couple of them his own making. The one today, Virgil Van Dijk just clears the ball into his hip, essentially. I'm not quite sure what he can do about that. That's just bad fortune. Gives away a penalty late on, of course, which is his own fault. But there's definitely been a time where everything he does seems to turn to shit. And he does seem to be, like I say, at the scene of many crimes. Let's put it that way, Jarell Quansah. Quansah is the fourth, he's just not a top Premier League player. And he's still got loads to learn, hasn't he? We don't see defenders really come into their own often until mid to late 20s sometime, when they've sort of got that back catalogue of experience and sample size behind them, and they've seen different situations, different strikers, their bodies fully developed and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I don't think we should be writing off Jarell Quansah just yet. I understand there's some uncertainty around him. I understand there's question marks as to whether he is ever going to be the answer for Liverpool Football Club. But I do think it's too premature just to dismiss him out of hand, because I think we've seen enough, particularly last season, to suggest there's a player there, personally. Anyway, right, I've got some more chats. Here we go. How the hell did Jones play the full game, who's once again absolutely garbage? Yeah, he was one of the most disappointing performers for me, because he can't use the excuse or the explanation that he hasn't seen enough action this season, because he has. He's got enough football under his belt to put in a much better performance than that. And actually, he was man of the match in the reverse fixture at Anfield against Chelsea. So his literal track record, the history against them, stands up. So for him to put in that level of performance, which was miles off it, is bitterly disappointing. And he's actually the sort of player, especially when you've got that midfield around you. I know there's more experience in him, but he doesn't play much, and Harvey Elliott alongside him as well. That's where you want Curtis Jones. And he was in the McAllister role as well. Now, I think Alexis McAllister has been the brains of Liverpool's operation for a little while now. He's been our best performer for me, exclusively over the course of the season. However, Curtis Jones didn't even come close to stepping up to that mark today. Quite the opposite at times, actually, to be honest. Anyway, let's dive back into the chat. There, Red says, what's the point of Elliott? He's slow, can't run, one-footed and sell. I wouldn't be selling Harvey Elliott myself. I think he's got more to his game than you've just described there. I think there's been times this season where we've been crying out for Harvey Elliott, actually. And he's been underused, actually, for me, if anything. Not the opposite of that. I think we've actually required him more than Arne Slot to turn to him. I get the one pace thing, he's a little bit one pace, and that's why I don't think we do see as much of him as maybe we think he warrants. And I think that's why he will never be even though many have tried to make him a right winger or a Salah understudy, just hasn't got the turn of pace. He's not fleet of foot enough to play that role, in my opinion. But I don't agree with what you just said there. I'll be honest, I don't agree with that at all. Certainly on the back of today, I think there was much worse performance today. Dan, I personally like the Guard of Honour. It motivates the other team, but these plastics in the chat are embarrassing. Champions, you never walk alone. Listen, people are allowed to be angry by a defeat. Elliott will be gone and slow and not physical enough, says Lee. Quite possibly. And again, I come back to my point a moment ago. That's clearly a large part of the reason he hasn't played at all. And it's hard to argue with that. If that's Arne Slot's rationale and his logic behind why he doesn't trust him enough in certain games and for certain occasions and certain match situations, he can't change that, Harvey Elliott. He's not going to get 4 yards quicker overnight, and he's not going to get 4 inches taller overnight either. That ship sailed, you know what I mean? So if it is as simple as that, then Harvey Elliott may well have to be sold in the summer. There's a few that, and the chat here sort of mentions the word expendable. There's a few in this squad that are expendable, maybe even 1 or 2 that started the game today that are as well. I personally wouldn't have Harvey Elliott in that category or in that bracket, but people may. Elliott seems to play well when he comes on as a substitute. Yeah, that's been a thing for a little while now. I don't think it's quite as hard and fast as good sub, shit starter for me personally, but I do take your point, and there's definitely been a greater body of work now to suggest that his impacts from the bench and his effectiveness from the bench has been more evident. Maybe that's just because you are calling upon it. You're literally asking for something often. There was a Crystal Palace game last year. There have been other examples where he's come on and he has instantly made the game better for us. But yeah, I don't know whether that's just because of who he is as a player or whether those have been the situations that have arose and there's where he's capitalised on, you know what I mean? But he did speak about it himself last year. He said he sort of, when he was on the bench, he was assessing where he could come on and have the biggest impact and have a positive effect on the game. So maybe there is some credence to that at the same time. Right, I'm just going to get this super chat up on my screen if I possibly can. This chat layout has changed dramatically and it's not making life easy for me. Well, so can somebody read that out on the chat? Because I cannot read that. My eyes are dreadful. I've already made this point earlier on today. And I don't have glasses with me. Let me just try and find it. 1 second. Here we go. Right, the game showed how crucial Maccarin's top. Yeah, listen, I didn't need that game to underline just how crucial. Certainly, Alexis McAllister is. Let's use him first off. I said it a moment ago. I think he's been pivotal to Liverpool this season. I think Ryan Gravenberch start of the season was a revelation, clearly. Nobody really expected. We had the upheaval and the unrest around the 6th position in the summer when Zubimendi turned us down. We all went, oh, fuck, what does that look like? Everyone relax. It looks like Ryan Gravenberch being an absolute Rolls-Royce boss. Dom Szoboszlai's had moments, he's had games in the season whereby he's been the standout. But for me, all the way through, Alexis McAllister has just been a consistent, the complete midfielder every single week, putting in levels of performance, 7s, 8s, occasionally 9s, always in that bracket, never below it, never really putting in a stinker, just a constant performer. And I think in recent weeks, actually, he's been better than that. He's been more in the 8.5, 9.5 bracket for me. So yeah, I didn't need today to tell me just how important those two were. But McAllister, for me, is the one who we miss most of all. And maybe that's something we need to look into in the summer, because can you be so reliant on one or two? Perhaps not. We probably need a little bit more depth in there. And if Harvey Elliott isn't the answer, some would say Curtis Jones isn't the answer. We might have to bring one into that department as well. Prosper says, this has been a good experiment, sell Quansah. I can't get on board with the selling Quansah. Honestly, if today was enough evidence for some of you that a few of them lads aren't good enough, then sound. I suppose if there's one or two, the Plymouth game, as I mentioned a moment ago, is probably another example of it, but I can't get on board with just dismissing any of them that performed today for various reasons. I think Tsimikas is probably the one that I come away from, and I thought he had an okay game, Kostas, but another game where you look at it and go, if we are going to bring in a first-choice left-back to compete with whoever left-back is, I'd probably still rather it's Andy Robertson for all the reasons we outlined earlier on, the experience, the quality he still possesses, that nous, that leadership class. Like, I just never see Tsimikas putting a performance that makes me go, well, you have to stay. You're definitely the answer. So, yeah, honestly, other than that, I don't think there's one in that game that really I would just get rid of off the back of it. Like, I don't work like that. Despite knowing it doesn't matter, it's still frustrating to lose to Chelsea. Yeah, it's always frustrating to lose. That should always be the case. And that's why I'm not completely baffled by some of the people losing their minds after it, because it wasn't good enough. It was below par, and it is horrible to lose games of football, especially against Chelsea, especially when they revel in it, like, just to really piss you off. But at the same time, in the cold light of day, like, won the Premier League, haven't we? Peter Birmingham Super Chat says, starting midfield today was incredibly unbalanced. Harvey doesn't suit our game. He'll have a great career elsewhere. A lot of people, Harvey Elliott and Jarell Quansah are the biggest losers from today by a million miles. Glenn makes a good point. At least Chiesa is now confirmed as a Premier League medal winner. Congratulations to him. And then we left it late, didn't he? I think Arne Slot said pre-match he was definitely going to use him between like now and the end of the season. I think including today as well. Then it got to like the 80th minute and he hadn't come on yet. I was thinking, God, he's going to go back on his word. He really does hate him. But then, of course, he emerged. Nasa Khan. I tell you what, Darwin Núñez, actually, to come back to my point a minute ago, from people who've probably, done themselves no favours. I think the writing's on the wall for Darwin anyway this summer. I think he's on the move regardless. And I know Diogo Jota's probably another one, actually, come to think of it, who probably deserves a lot of criticism because he never really got into the game, and when he did, his quality was not at the races at all. But people on social media in particular were saying, like, well, at least when Darwin comes on, things happened and there's something to talk about, which maybe wasn't the case with Jota. But I'm sorry, if the thing to talk about is a horrendous header when the goal, you smack bang in the middle of the goal, you're 6 yards out, it's a perfect ball for Mo Salah. You haven't got to lean back, you haven't got to adjust your body, you haven't really got to crane that much. For the striker, 6 foot whatever he is, Darwin Núñez, that is one hell. That's on a plate more or less to at least hit the target. To not hit the target in that situation is unforgivable for me. And again, yet more proof that he's just not the answer. And I've been a long-suffering Darwin Núñez fan. I've been willing to stick by him and stick by him and stick by him, but my God, has the time come. And I'm quite loyal to a lot of Liverpool players, full stop, because that's the way I am, generally speaking. But yeah, Darwin, it's time, isn't it? It's time. It's so time. Just quickly get the super chat up off Nasa again. It says, get rid of lads who don't take chance when given and replace with real quality. Don't do as last time after the title win. Instead, kick on. Dominic, you know, I 100% wholeheartedly agree with the last point there, in terms of last time we won the Premier League, we brought in like 1 or 2 players and it wasn't good enough. Because you stand still, the Premier League, everyone else around you moves on and you get caught quickly. We found that out to our cost. I want Liverpool. I want this to be the start of something for Liverpool. A lot of people have used the word dynasty in recent days, and I get it. It's romantic, it's fanciful, but why not? Why not use it? Fuck it, why not? But the problem now, or sort of the challenge now, is a challenge again. And to defend the title and to be better than you were last year. And I think one of the easiest ways we can do that is by signing players and not resting on our laurels and making sure that this is just the start and Arne Slot, Richard Hughes, etc. are equipped enough and ready to go into the transfer market. So at the final point is absolutely bang on the money in terms of what I have said and want this summer, because I think it's got to be a big one because there's clearly upgradable positions and squad areas. But as for just getting rid of players, there's definitely 2 or 3, possibly 4 or 5 that will leave. I think there'll be a natural sort of circulation of footballers this summer, but I don't think we saw many of them today, if I'm being honest. I think Darwin Núñez is probably one. Kostas Tsimikas is probably one. We know about the Trent situation. That's kind of as an aside to everything else. But honestly, like, we didn't see Kieran Kelleher, obviously. I think he'll probably want to leave. From the bench today, do I think anyone? Chiesa, his future is clearly still up in the air because he's been so, vacant, so absent, really. But outside of that, the Harvey Elliott one's fascinating to me. I think if there was genuine interest and there was big money on the table, Harvey Elliott and Liverpool might have to consider it, perhaps. But I don't think Liverpool will be pushing for that exit whatsoever. And I don't think Harvey Elliott will be either, for what it's worth. Curtis Jones is a non-starter. Obviously, all the first team, the out-and-out first-team lads, they're all non-starters as well. Diogo Jota's an interesting conversation for me. I don't think Luis Diaz is going anywhere either. So, yeah, there aren't many that you're going to sort of completely rip up everything and start again over the course of the summer. There just isn't. But I do think there'll be a lot of incomings, personally. I think 4 or 5. But the point I'm making initially is that what we need is more squad players that Arne Slot can rely upon. And maybe a better quality of squad player as well. You might be absolutely spot on. I do think there is some quality in there, but we definitely need to upgrade and get 1 or 2 more options, because I think it's done us dirty. Late on, Bolden says, your fortunate thing about the midfield problem is Slot probably going to sell Endo just because of his age and to get someone out of the squad. But I'm not sure he will sell Endo, if I'm being honest. I'm not sure if he will. Take care, mate. Have a good one. Enjoy your bank holiday. Yeah, I think a lot of the Endo and the sick stuff, generally speaking, because we need help there. That's clear. Ryan Gravenberg's been brilliant, mostly, this season. But he can't do it all again next time around. I'd be shocked and amazed if he could. And we've seen dips in his performances, perhaps due to the sheer intensity and the sheer amount of minutes that he played. But yeah, there has to be a solution there. And I think Vitor might be part of that. I think someone like James McConnell might be part of that as well when it comes to cup games as well. But I also do still have this feeling, call it sort of a hunch, that Stefan Bajcetic might be part of that too, personally. But we'll have to wait and see. And Bora literally brings this comment in as I'm speaking. And I just think Liverpool are going to want to take a proper look at him. And he may or may not be the answer come the summer. We'll know more during pre-season, I'm certain of it. But if Liverpool are going to go into the market in the way that we expect and spend £200-300 million, like we all hope they will, I'm not sure there'll be that much of a priority or focus on signing a DM. I'd love someone like Adam Wharton. We spoke about Carlos Baliba as well earlier on. Angelo Stiller, somebody mentioned here from Stuttgart, of course. Player. Count me in on all of them, really. But is that going to be Liverpool's main area? I'm not so certain. Lee Guy, after we have an understudy for Conor Bradley, no. And I think that's something we probably need to address as well, if I'm being honest. That's obviously, providing Trent leaves as we expect. I really like Conor Bradley. I think he's a wonderful footballer. There's clearly issues around his fitness. And even if Conor Bradley was bulletproof and was always available, if Trent's going to leave, you need to sign a right back. Like, forget about Conor Bradley's fitness problems for now. You can't just have one out-and-out right back. We still don't know what's going to happen with Joe Gomez. Jarell Quansah has his own problems at centre-back at the moment, which is his natural position, let alone playing that position. So I don't think that there's any legs in that either. We've seen him use sixes in there a little bit. Maybe he could persevere with that, but it's not perfect, clearly. So we need to sign a right back. Like, left back, centre-half, centre-forward, right back, probably another utility forward who can play across the front line. They're your minimums. Then I think you can look at number 6, personally. That's my summer, and very quickly summed up in like 10 seconds. Dare Red, does he think Endo stays? I do as well. I think a lot of what happens with Saro Endo will be based on what Saro Endo wants. If he goes to on a slot this summer and knocks on the door and says, listen, what's happening next year? Am I going to be a part of this? Or am I expecting the same amount of minutes, similar amount of game time, or even less because you're about to go and sign someone, or Stefan Bajcetic coming in? If the answer's any of the last 2 options there, he may well just say, do you know what, my time's come. I've loved it. I've won the Premier League, but I've got options back in the Bundesliga, in France, Spain, whatever, in the Premier League, who knows? Then maybe we do sell. And if there's offers on the table of like 20 million, we might. And that might have to force our hand into doing a Angelo Stiller, Adam Wharton, whoever. But I honestly think there's going to be lots and lots of moving parts all summer long. And I know that sounds like me saying that because it's what I do for a living and it gives us stuff to talk about. I'm not that arsed, ultimately. It keeps me busy, granted, but I'd like to have a rest every now and then. I genuinely think it's going to be a busy summer. And I think for all the reasons we've just kind of outlined in the past 10 minutes, Arne Slot said as much, Virgil Van Dijk said as much. I just think there's going to be loads happening in and out, by the way. Colin Campbell says left back, right back, centre back, number 6, number 9, and Salah back up to start with. Shitting hell. That's what I'm talking about. Busy. I don't know about Gyökeres. At all, I'm afraid. Clearly a very, very good striker and very proficient in Portugal and in the Championship. Does that translate to the Premier League? I don't know. Don't quite know. Bit off topic, Dan. Today reads I become Thiago Alcantara. If you stop that sentence there, that'd be wonderful. That'd be everything you'd need, because that is a great person to realise who you are. However, the next bit isn't great. My left hip is beyond injured at this point. I'm only 25. Jurgen Van Boorden. I saw Jurgen's run, actually, yeah. Bad news about the hip, mate. Hopefully you get better soon. Which is something Thiago never did, actually. It took him months to get over it. A cold, essentially. And it sounds really negative, but I fucking love Thiago, so I'm sure he'll let me off. Laugh all they want, we are champions. Yeah, listen. I'm okay with having the conversations around our shortcomings, our deficiencies, and what the future might look like. Because I think we are in that weird mode now, whereby we've won the Premier League, that's all glorious. The Guards of Honour are fine, they're quite fun. The football's fine, it's quite fun. Today was a bit shit, but whatever. We are all I'm laser focused on the final weekend of the season. Some bits that are going on for work as well around it, obviously. The parade, the trophy lift, all that shit. That's where I want to be. So I can already start to turn my attention, have conversations with you guys about the summer and the transfer window and all that sort of stuff. And Hugo Santos has just retracted that message that I was about to click on then. Because Hugo, if you can hear me and you're still there, it wasn't, mate. And I'm not going to embarrass you by saying what you said because you've already retracted it, but it wasn't, mate. It really wasn't. It was a bit shit, and that's it. If you can't shrug your shoulders and be like, meh, whatever. After today, when we've literally just won the Premier League, then you never can. It's just one of them things, man. You were back again. I'm bringing it up this time. It didn't matter. Honestly, and I'm one of the more people who've been a long time sufferers of me on here will know I'm one of the more competitive, one of the more fucking hate losing, bad loser. Comes from my own sporting background. I hate it. I'm proper bad at it, and I want us to go out there and compete in every single game. And I think we did that today. There were some bad performances, a couple of individual errors, and again, it was a bit crap every now and then. But were we all right? Yeah. Did we roll over and get twatted by Chelsea? No. So I can live with that. I can just about live with that. Anyway, when's the rating show? In literally a minute, I'll walk over that board because I think we've had our fun with the transfers and the context and the aftermath. I think we're all good. I like Ekitike. Do you know who we bet on Ekitike, though? Alexander Isak, obviously. But Julian Alvarez. I've convinced myself that Julian Alvarez is possible in the past 24 hours. You might have noticed. Michaela Perkins says, I'm 33. The only reason I hate it is because of how much I hate Chelsea. I get that. And it's fine to have individual reasons for it to be even shitter than I'm explaining. And ultimately, you be you. If you're embarrassed by today, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. But for my own personal opinion, I can't agree. I can't be that. I can't be embarrassed or ashamed of the Premier League champions, given the fact we've literally just confirmed it. Just doesn't marry up in my mind at all. Possibly is the answer to this. Possibly. I'm going to assume that's in jest. It might not be, but I'm going to assume that's in jest. Yeah, I might be over there. It looks like I'm definitely going to do the Hong Kong leg, which is cool. But I also might be joining you over there too. So wait and see on that one. I will let you all know as soon as I know. It was an average performance. It definitely was an average performance. And that's probably a good way of leaving it. Benny says, Chloe's new right back. She's good in the cups. I don't know what that means. But fine. She happens. Good. One good goal we gave the other two. Chelsea's fighting for the last two, I think. Chelsea got loads to play for. Liverpool, not so much. Not so much. Anyway, sound, I wrap up there. That's that show done. We will go and do the player ranking show, which if you haven't seen it before, is where I pick up a player's face and you tell me where to put that player's face from boss sound to your messing. Come and do that with me because honestly, if you thought this bit would have been bad if you weren't speaking to me, wait and see how much of a fucking dick I look if nobody speaks to me over there as well. So come and join me, please. I'll see you in a second.